Say the हमें अपने मन को हमेशा संतुलित रखना है। इसी में हमारा आत्म विकास समाया हुआ है। वै मे सर्वं मनी मे त्वं स्मारे स्मारे ओम चित्तं शामय शामय ओम स्मरामि सोऽहं ॐ शान्तं चिन्मयम् ॐ तटस्थं केवलम् स्मरामि शुद्धम् ॐ। Okay. We saw that Sutra 38 onwards, the knowledge is deepening and it is going into the essential knowledge which Sankhya talks about. It is moving towards Tattva Jnana, which is the peculiarity and which, special feature of Sankhya studies. So we saw the pranas and then we studied about the one particular Mahabhuta, that is Akasha, and its relation to the sound. Then Akasha relationship with the body, how the body occupies space and how space is all pervading. Now today's sutra is taking us into the what can be compared to what is physics, positive science of the modern sciences. Same way, the physics of Sankhya or physics of yoga, that will be covered under today's sutra, because it is talking about the external world, the tattvas of the external world, which is known as Bhutas, how they appear. So often you will find me comparing scientific theories with the Sankhya, but as I told you, they are not to be taken as same. Whenever I am giving some scientific example, it is just to convey the point from the point of view of understanding. So scientific example is given to understand the feature or understand the special theory of or the principle of Sankhya, but they are not comparative. There's no comparison between physics and what Sankhya is saying. Why? Because the essential approach is totally different. This we have to understand. So how the essential approach is different, we find that science talks about the external world as it is appearing, and then it goes on studying the various kind of matters which are available, and it tries to dissect it, it tries to break it into small pieces, and then it has arrived the theory of this various kinds of energies which are there in the external world. Then it talks about atomic particles, then it talks about subatomic particles, and the research is still going on. You see, the research is going on. So science, how Sankhya and science differ is that when science faces a difficulty, it with the power of mind, it tries to find out ways of overcoming that difficulty in the by the way of material means. So when it wanted to study very subtle kind of things, eye was not enough. Human eye has got very limited capacity. So eyes can see only limited area. So what science does that how can we magnify the object? So they try to magnify the object, and then we know that microscope was found. Through microscope but then they found that there are even life forms which are much more subtler than an ordinary microscope can see. So they went on developing more and more methods by which a small thing can also be magnified. First, through ordinary microscope, maybe 200, 500, 1,000 times. But later on, electromagnetic, micro instruments came, sensitive instruments, through which the thing can be, increased in size manifold for perception, for observation. So this is how science has been working. But yogis do not have this kind of laboratories. Yogis do not have any such kind of instruments available to them. So how does yogi know about it? So here, basic thing which we have to understand here is that whatever we have discussed till now, in Sankhya Sutra, in Sutras, Patanjali Yoga Sutras and Sankhya ideas, whatever we have discussed, these are the findings of a yogis as they appear in his experience. This difference we have to understand. So how certain things appear to us, how I am perceiving them, how they are affecting me, how I am connected to them. These are the important areas of study. And no external instrument is used, but only the mind is used. So obviously, yogis find that what was a physical gross obstacle in the path of scientist that he could not magnify. So he found a way to magnify it. And yogi found that when he is studying something, there are certain disturbances coming from the mind itself. And he is not able to study, he is not able to understand. So he found a method, like the science developed instruments, the yogis developed techniques for stabilizing the mind, calming down the mind, isolating things from each other, seeing things in their essential nature, to be able to segregate, to be able to separate. So like, when we are very ordinary, we all are students of yoga, and you will agree with me that as when we started, our minds were in a different state, and when something was to be understood, we were very confused, and many times, particularly in relation to what was going on inside our minds, what kind of thoughts we had, what kind of feelings we had. We never had this idea that how feelings were affecting our perceptions, how we were getting disturbed because of certain desires we have, certain cravings we have, certain intense impulses we have. They affect our mind, and the mind is not able to see clearly. So like the scientists develop these instruments to steadily watch certain thing, same way yogis develop techniques. Yogi developed techniques and his own instruments through which he tried to stabilize mind. Because everybody has got a similar kind of mind. We all have similar kind of mind, and we all have similar kind of capacities. But why then some of us are able to understand more, some of us are able to see more, Some of us can really go deeply into things, because it is the level of development of mind. So yoga talks about and yoga says everybody is capable of this kind of knowledge. Everybody has that capacity. So now this has to be always kept in mind. So whenever scientific examples are given, don't confuse that science and Sankhya are same. They are not same. Their approaches are, in fact, the cage they are using is totally different. The cage to catch the, as Dr. Jaydev would say, all these systems, they are like cages. And why a cage is used, where a cage is used? A cage is used to catch hold of some animal. So here the cage is being used to catch hold of the truth. So every system of thought, every scientific discipline, it is trying to go to the roots of the things and then trying to understand, try to find the truth. So that is the essential nature of inquiry. We are trying to uh, kind of find the truth, and different methods are there. So everybody uses a different kind of cage. Labels are different, terminology is different. Science, physics has got a different terminology. Chemistry has got different terminology. Biology has got different. In biology also, zoology has got different terminology. Botany has different terminology. Although both are dealing with the living organism, but then the terminologies are totally different because they are trying to understand the reality from a certain angle, from a certain perspective. So when yogi is trying to understand things about the external world, it is because how he is doing it. He is doing it as the world is appearing to his senses, as it is appearing to his mind. So the way he is experiencing things, that's how he is trying to understand the reality. This has to be always kept in mind. So here the human experience is the most important thing. In science also, human experience is very important. But in science, they do talk about certain kind of objectivity where the mind doesn't matter, the consciousness doesn't matter. Although it is a different thing that all scientific theories become theories in a human mind. If there's nobody to know about it, there's no consciousness which will be knowing what science is saying, then there's no importance of scientific theory. A scientific theory also makes meaning where? It will make meaning in human mind. So somewhere that consciousness is coming into play. Without conscious play, all theories become unimportant. There might be several things existing about which we are not aware. But if we are not aware of them, they do not have any meaning for us. They have meaning for us only when we become aware. So that Sankhya says our human experience is very important. That's why always consider it that this experiences we are going through in life, they are so important because all our growth, all our development depends on how we are using that experience to grow, using that experience to learn. So whatever we are learning, whatever we are going through in life, day-to-day activity also, whatever we are experiencing in day-to-day life also, because that can tell us what is going wrong, where it is going wrong, what needs to be corrected. So our experiences are really important. And that's what Sankhya says. Sankhya talks about two things. Why this external world is there? Sankhya says there are two things, Bhoga and Apavarga. We will talk about it. But then if we ask a scientist, now this is a definite position taken by Sankhya. But if you ask a scientist why there is so much development, why Earth is there, why planets are there, why so many stars and why galaxies are there, why the space is expanding, and what is the purpose of all life on the Earth? A very complex kind of life system is there on the Earth. Why it is so? They will not be able to tell why it is so, because that position has not been clearly taken. But whereas in Sankhya, that position was taken thousands of years back. So all that is, all those ideas, all those concepts are really to be studied and they are to be understood. So from that perspective, today's sutra is important. As I told you, that Sankhya talks about 25 tattvas. Everything in the universe can be reduced to these 25 tattvas, according to Sankhya. There's nothing in the universe which cannot fall under one of the categories of these 25 tattvas. So that is how Sankhya, works. We have seen that how this Akasha element was talked about, and how scientifically also that is correct, because science also says what is matter? Matter is something which occupies space, and there are other qualities also of matter. There will be weight, it will be subject to gravity. These are the some of the scientific indicators which will tell us what is matter. कोई भी चीज को हम देखते हैं तो वो जड़ पदार्थ जो है वो मैटर है. तो मैटर के बारे में साइंस का क्या कहना है वो थोड़ा सा आइडिया हम लोगों को है, क्योंकि हम लोगों ने बचपन में साइंस में थोड़ा बहुत पढ़ा है. स्कूल में, अगर कॉलेज में नहीं पढ़ा तो भी स्कूल में तो पढ़ा ही है. तो व्हाट इज मैटर अकॉर्डिंग टू साइंस, उसमें हम लोग देखते हैं कि वन ऑफ द डेफिनेशन, वन ऑफ द एसेंशियल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स इज दैट मैटर इज दैट विच ऑक्युपाइज स्पेस. So space is very essential thing. And then we see there is energy all around. There are different kind of things, different objects are there. So now going to the sutra, this sutra is saying Sthula Swarupa, Sthula Swarupa Sukshma Anvaya Arthavatva Sanyamad Bhuta Jaya. So translation is Sthul Swarup Sukshma अन्वय तथा अर्थवत्व, भूत के इन 5 रूपों में संयम करने से भूत जय होता है. By doing संयम on the grossness, the essential character, the subtlety, the inherence, and the objectiveness, which are the 5 forms of bhutas or elements, mastery over bhutas is obtained. This is what the sutra means. Again, very technical, very difficult to understand what they are talking about, and what is this grossness, what is this subtleness. Now we will go to the practical side of it. Remember that we are talking about human experience. So we had touched upon it. I had already prepared the background in your minds when we had discussed earlier sutras, when I told you that the entire complex world with millions and millions of objects, it presents itself to us only in 5 modes. Which are these 5 modes? We had talked about it, 5 kinds of stimuli, and these 5 kind of stimuli, 5 kind of modes, they are appealing to our 5 senses. So we know the world through 5 senses. And what are the signals world is sending to us? Every object which we have named, we might have known hundreds and thousands of objects. Dictionary is full of so many names. But how do we know them? We know them only in 5 ways. Either we will be using our eyes, so that means visual stimuli will be there, visual form will be there, or we'll be hearing the certain sounds, that will be another thing, or we will taste it, or we will smell it, or we will touch it. These are the 5 modes in which we know them. And in the sense of touch, there are so many other things. Like when we look at the object, it may appear to be very, very soft. But when we touch it, it might be very hard. So there, what we do is, along with the visual form, we will try to touch the object. So there will be softness, there will be hardness, but we'll have to touch it. So these are the 5 modes in which we know the world. Based on these 5 modes of knowledge, Sankhya's yogins have divided the entire world into 5 principles. They call it Pancha Mahabhutas. What are these Pancha Mahabhutas? Pancha Mahabhutas are Prithvi, Jal or Aap, Agni, Vayu and Akash. So these 5 are the modes which entire universe, entire world appears to us. 5 principles are there. So again, if we look at the science, how science views it, science also talks about it. It talks about various kinds of matter. So they say that whatever we observe through our senses, whatever we perceive through external the senses about the external world has got certain amount of qualities. And then they go on reducing to underlying principles. they come to this idea of atoms, subatomic particles. And then finally, physics talks about there is space, there's energy, there's time, there's matter. So all kind of matter is divided into certain categories, but then ultimately it is matter. And matter has to behave in a certain predictable manner. So same way, Sankhya also says the external world is reduced to five, Pancha Mahabhutas. So what this sutra is saying, Sthula Swarupa. Sthula Swarupa, Sukshma, Anvaya, Arthavatva. Five things are there. External world is divided into five kinds of forms. So Sankhya wants to know how this external world is connected to us, how it is affecting us. So let us say the moment we look at some object, because our minds have been working, and we look at any object, for example, when we are looking at a thing called, say, experience. So describe what you saw.
The blue color book.
Blue color book. Okay. More description.
Rectangular shape,
Yeah.
white pages,
Yeah.
a hook for the pen to be kept.
Yeah. So now you see, this book has got many characteristics. One of the characteristic is that it has got certain amount of weight. It has a particular form. And then what you will not be able to see, what I can feel, you will not be able to feel it because this object is not with you. So I can feel certain amount of touch, a different kind of sensation when I am moving my fingers around it. Right? And then I can also smell it. I can get a distinct smell in this, which is totally distinct from the other objects. And then, as the example of Akasha goes, this book occupies, is it small or is it big? Is it small or is it big? Sufficiently big to handle, not very small, but small enough to put in a bag or handle. So, and that means it is occupying certain limited space. So wherever this book will be, either it comes to you or it remains with me, this book will always occupy a certain amount of space. So these are the features. Now the solidity part which holds it, with the energy, the force which is holding this book in proper form, years together it will remain in this proper form. Maybe very long time it will disintegrate into small pieces, but as long as the force is working, it will remain in this form. So that force which is holding it together in solid form is Prithvi Tattva. It is not the Prithvi as we understand the earth. It is the Prithvi Tattva which gives solidity to the objects. And we see that every object has got this solidity. And that density of that solid thing might be differing. And there might be millions of things which will have different kind of densities. Every object will have different kind of intensity, different density, and that density will be determined by the earth principle, Kshiti principle. So anything which is related to, and what we see in the external world, we see that every object has got certain amount of solidity. This solidity comes from the earth principle. And then you may ask, Sankhya says, whatever objects we are holding, they all are made up of Panchamahabhutas. But these bhutas cannot be found in the proper pure form. Everything we handle is combination of five bhutas. So now you may ask that where is the water principle in this? Something which is water binds. Water binds. So there is certain amount of fluidity in this which is really binding it. And the very form of it, the moment I showed this, everybody must have noticed, oh, it's blue color. So it's a blue color means there is Agni. There is Agni Tattva. Whatever gives form to the objects is known as Agni Tattva. Whatever gives liquidity to the object is known as water element. And every object has got certain amount of every object has got different distinct touch. If we are very sensitive, we will be able to differentiate. Even when we look at the flowers, each flower will have a different sensations of touch. So much so that every color, there are papers, for example, there are papers, 10, 20, 15 different papers are there, but each paper is of a distinct color. Even that color changes the sense of touch in that object. Green color, if you touch, it will have different sensation. It's a different thing that we will not be able to distinguish it. But those who are very sensitive, they can easily distinguish. Even with closed eyes, if they touch a green paper, they know it is green paper. They touch blue paper, it is green, because there, even the color, even the form which is there, that also can alter the sense of touch which is there. So the fourth principle which is there, it is sense of touch. Every object we see in the world has got a sense of touch, and then it is occupying space. And when it is occupying space, last two sutras we have been discussing that what is the characteristics of Akash Tattva, Akash Mahabhut? It is the Shabda, sound. So every object in the universe will have distinct sound. How we produce the sound? When two things are colliding with each other, the sound is produced. So if I do this, it's a distinct sound. And if I do this, the distinct sound. So every object, we might be handling hundreds of objects, we might be handling thousands of objects, but each of the object will have a distinct sound quality, and the trained person can easily find out what the difference is. And then when we look at these are the five Panchamahabhutas. So the world appears to, in our experience, we experience the world in five forms, and the world presents itself in five ways. And these five ways are known as Panchamahabhutas. Not the ordinary water, not the ordinary earth, not the ordinary sky, but space. Pure space is Akasha. Sense of touch, which tactile sense comes from Vayu Tattva. Vayu Tattva is all the time moving. And all the sensation of touch cannot come without Vayu Tattva, because that moment, scientifically also, if you see, when we are moving, then only we feel the touch, otherwise we don't feel. That's why when you are looking, when you want to examine something, you try to touch it and see it, what it feels like. There's a moment. So maybe we are moving our fingers on that object, then we come to know about. So air principle is responsible for all the touch sensation, and fire element is responsible for all the visual forms. So the entire, like the scientist says that this entire world is nothing but electromagnetic spectrum. It is nothing but energy, but the energy is of different kinds. So there is a kind of energy which is known as light. The energy which is related or which is connected to the light, that energy is working in our eyes, and that energy is working in the objects. That is why eyes are able to see the form. So we see flowers of different colors, because there is a different forms of energy. Each flower has got different form of energy. That's why that distinctness is there in the flower. Each object, even in the stones, there will be a differing principle, differing proportion of the earth element, Prithvi Mahabhut. That's why each one will have a different texture. Each one will have a different. Now, this is what is Panchamahabhutas. I hope I try to simplify. I hope you understand how the external world is divided into five Panchamahabhutas. That is the gross form of the. तो स्थूल स्वरूप भूतों का स्थूल स्वरूप कौन सा है? जो आकाश, वायु, अग्नि, जल, क्षिति, ये आकाश, ये जो पांच महाभूत है, ये स्थूल है. और फिर इसका सूक्ष्म रूप, एसेंशियल स्वरूप क्या है, उसका स्वरूप क्या है, उसके बारे में अगर बात करेंगे तो each of the bhutas have got a very, very specific quality. Very specific quality. Now, all this is, science cannot disprove it. Understand this. Although this is analysis of experience, but science can only confirm the validity, confirm the veracity of what Sankhya claims. So, now when we talk about Swarup, what is the Swarup or essential nature of the Bhutas? So let us say, for example, Prithvi Tattva. So what are the qualities of Prithvi Tattva? Prithvi Tattva has got solidity, it has got hardness, but more than the solidity and hardness, there is also what is known as Gandha, smell. Because how we know the Prithvi Tattva? We know the Prithvi Tattva through smell. So, very old definition I came across a few months back. I was reading something and very beautiful definition was there. What is earth? Earth is that which has got smell. The lesser presence of earth, the less smell will be there. The more smell is there, the more Prithvi Tattva is there. Because smell is the essential characteristics of earth. That is the Swarupa of earth. So what is gross? Gross is the hardness, which we are talking about. And what is the Swarupa of it? What is the subtler than that? Subtle form. That is actually subtlety is Sukshma, but Swarupa, what is the essential characteristics of earth? It is the smell. तो कहीं पे भी अगर गंध है तो पृथ्वी है. और हम देखते हैं दुनिया में जितने भी पदार्थ हम देखते हैं, everything has got smell. Whatever we handle, normally we may not, because of the subtlety of the smell, we may not be able to detect it. Or maybe the object is so dense that small particles of it are not reaching our nose. That's why we are not able to discern. That is why we are not able to understand the smell. But if the small particles of that object will reach our nose and the sensors which are there in our nose, then we will be able to understand there is a smell. So smell is connected. Now, this smell or Gandha is Tanmatra. Like if we look at the atom of a particular, various kinds of objects are there. Science divides all the world, all the universe into certain number of elements. So naturally, there are little more than 100 elements, naturally. And each of the elements, if they are studied differently. So let us say iron. If iron as an object is there, there's a piece of iron. But if scientists want to study it, it will go on breaking it and it will try to reach the atom of the iron. After reaching the atom of the atom of the iron, scientists will try to study the structure of the atom. So atom will have a distinct formation. And what will be that formation? How the elements are differentiated from each other according to chemistry and according to science? From the number of electrons, protons, and neutrons. So iron will have certain number of electrons moving around the nucleus, and it will have certain number of protons and neutrons. That is what makes it iron. So iron, when we look at the gross thing, for example, this steel piece I showed you, this appears to be very solid. But when we look at the atom of the atom of this will have certain number of electrons and certain numbers of protons, certain numbers of neutrons. But when we look at the atom of this object, it will have totally distinct kind of atom which will have totally different number of electrons, protons and neutrons. So what is the essential characteristics of, in very ordinary language, if I ask you, how do you describe, how there are five metals I am keeping in front of you. I keep silver, I keep gold, maybe aluminium, copper and iron. Five things I keep in front of you and they all are looking alike. So if I tell you that how you will tell that what is iron, if you are a student of science, if you know science, you will say all five metals look similar, but if something is iron, then its atom will have certain numbers of electrons and certain numbers of protons and isn't it that is how you will explain it? So what is the essential nature or what is the Swarupa of iron? What will be the Swarupa of iron? Swarupa of iron would be that its atom has got certain limited number of electrons, protons. That is how. So what is the Prithvi Tattva? If we take Prithvi Tattva as iron, then what is the true nature of the Prithvi Tattva? The Gandha, the smell. It will have smell. If there is smell, understand it is Prithvi Tattva. Now this particular thing I explained in little detail so that we can understand the rest of the four Bhutas. And what will be the Swarupa of water? Jal Tattva, Aap Tattva. The Aap Tattva will have its essential form or the Swarupa in the form of liquidity. Anywhere you see the liquidity in the universe, it is all because of the water element. That is the true nature of water Tattva. So liquidity is and this liquidity is when we understand why I prepared a background before touching the sutra. Human experience. How do you experience liquidity in the world? How human beings can experience, because we are talking about experience. How human beings can experience the liquidity of water through the tongue. Test. Science also, if you study science, science will tell you if there is no water content on your tongue, you will not be able to taste anything. Certain amount of liquidity is necessary for the test to occur. So the essential nature of jala or water is taste. Same way, the essential nature of fire. Now you get the point. I think you are smart enough, you will understand. Fire, what will be the Swarupa of fire? How do we know the fire? How do we know the fire? We know the earth through nose. We know the water through the taste. How do we know the fire? Eyes, form. Any kind of light, color, form, any kind of structure which we see, we are able to distinguish. We are able to look at the forms. Flowers have got different colors, different forms. Objects have got different colors, different forms. Anywhere when something is being visualized, something is being perceived by the eyes, it is connected to Agni Tattva. Agni is not ordinary fire. As many writings, many people will say Agni Tattva means fire element. Fire element is not the ordinary fire. That is also Agni Tattva. But then it is much more deeper than that. Everything has got Agni Tattva. This has got Agni Tattva because you are able to perceive its form. अगर इसमें अग्नि तत्व नहीं रहता था तो आप इसको देख नहीं पाते थे. The fact that you are able to see it, you are able to understand it, and it is blue color. You see it is blue color. Why you are able to see the blue color? Why you are able to see the form of this book? Because there is Agni Tattva here. And the way we saw in case of Akasha, there is Akasha in our body, there is Akasha in our senses, there is Akasha outside. Same way, there is Agni Tattva in this book, there is Agni Tattva in eyes. And that's why we are able to perceive this as a blue color. So what will be the essential nature of fire? What will be the essential Swarupa of fire? It will be the form, Rupa. तो अभी 3 हो गए. गंध हो गया, रसना टेस्ट हो गया, रूप हो गया, और क्या बचा? टेस्ट, टच, sensation, tactile sensation. We have tactile sensation. So when we are sitting and suddenly we feel very pleasant kind of sensation of touch on our body. How do you feel that? How do you feel that? Something touches us. Normally what touches us? The air. So air is so pleasant. Or it has to be any other object. It has to come into contact with the skin to produce that sensation. And that is happening because of the Vayu Tattva, air element. And as we saw Shabda, I am speaking to you. There is space all around me. There is space within my vocal cords. There is a space inside. And through that space, I am hitting my vocal cords with each other with the help of breath. And I am producing certain sound. And that sound is reaching the instrument of this computer, where it is converted into electrical signals. And then in your computer or in your screen, it is converted again into the sound vibrations, which are reaching through the space in the space which is there in the ears. And there it is interpreted as a certain form of words which I am speaking. All this is happening because of the air element. वायु तत्व, अगर वायु तत्व नहीं होता था, आकाश तत्व नहीं होता था, तो ये आवाज एक दूसरे तक नहीं जा सकता है. So what is the essential or Swarupa of Akash Tattva? It is Shabda. That's why you will find Sankhya talks about 25 principles. Out of that, the 10 principles are related to the external world. And which are these 10? The gross, स्थूल जिसको कहते हैं, gross. Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal or up, Kshiti. These are the 5. And what are their subtle forms? Shabda, sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. These are known as Tanmatras. Sankhya talks about Tanmatras. These Tanmatras are the subtle form of the gross objects which are there according to Sankhya. Just like the atoms are there in case of the gross material form or metals which are there, or the things which are there in the external world according to physics. So this is the second form. So what is gross form? Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal, Kshiti. What is subtle form? Shabda, sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. After that comes Sukshma form. Still subtler than that is what? If we look at the science, they say, okay, atom of iron will contain certain number of electrons, protons, and neutrons. If you look at that, now scientist doesn't require any confirmation from anybody. When he observes the atom of iron and he knows that, so how many electrons are there, how many protons, neutrons are there, he will tell you it is an atom of iron, right? Same way, when we are talking about these Prithvi Tattva and Shabda and Sparsha and Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, yogis, the moment he's hearing the Shabda, he knows that there's a Akash Tattva. Or he's smelling, he will know that there's a Prithvi Tattva. But then what is subtler than this? इससे भी सूक्ष्म क्या हो सकता है? So what is subtler than atom? Earlier, maybe 50, 60, 100 years back, or 80, 90 years back, physics had said that we have reached the ultimate. We know now that every element has got certain atoms, and atoms are fixed in number. Atoms have got certain fixed electrons, protons, neutrons. But later on, more research was done. And when more research was done, then they said that, okay, one atom can be broken. That is how the atomic energy is gained. When the atoms are broken, they give a lot of energy. At the same time, they change their structure. The structure which an atom is holding, it will break. While breaking, all the electrons, protons, neutrons, they will separate. And then they came to conclusion that there are subatomic particles, and several subatomic particles which are subtler than the gross atom of any metal or any material or element. They have been able to find, and research is going on. 4 or 5 years back, you might have, if you recall, you must have read in newspapers and you must have heard news on TVs that they have found a subatomical called BOSS. I hope you remember it. a
The
few years.
God particle.
The boss particle.
God particle.
God particle. The God particle. Now, what they are trying to do, they are trying to reach the ultimate God particle, which constitutes every distinct object. Now the question is, if we can distinguish the atom of iron from the atom of, say, hydrogen or copper, why we are able to distinguish? Because presence of certain fixed number of electrons. But what if the electrons are broken and we have got some subatomic particle? How do we know that this particles belong to which metal? Same way, Shabda. We cannot go beyond Shabda. Shabda is the subtlest experience human being can have about the gross object. Because if we try to go beyond Tanmatras, we go into a different area. So science is trying to say that subatomic particles are existing. So what is behind this Pancha Mahabhutas and Tanmatras? The three gunas. Sankhya says everything is made up of, no matter what, whatever human mind can know, it will be composed of three gunas. There will be knowability in it, perceptibility in it, and there will be activity in it, there will be energy in it, and there will be some kind of grossness in it, some kind of binding, restricting force in it, which physics call dark matter, which is occupying the space all over. This great expansion in the space, it is not empty. It is occupied by something. What is that which is occupying the space? According to Sankhya, it is Tamas. And there's energy in the universe. Universe is nothing but energy. What Sankhya calls this energy is Rajas. And there is a certain amount of knowability, which maybe comes from the sense of light, which comes from the stimuli of sound, which comes from the stimuli of taste, which may come from the stimuli of nose, Gandha. Now, there also you will find this knowability comes from Sattva. So that is the third form of Bhutas. Whatever we are capable of knowing, even our body, even our minds, even everything which we are looking at, we are experiencing, everything is made up of three gunas. There is Sattva, there is Rajas, and there is Tamas. These are the constituent principles. These are the most important principle of Sankhya. Because Sankhya says anything you look at the universe, it will be composed of three gunas. So what is not composed of three gunas? Only the consciousness. Because consciousness is beyond all forms. It is beyond any material. Consciousness is non-material. We are talking about material things. जड़ जगत के बारे में हम बात कर रहे हैं. चेतन जगत के बारे में बात करेंगे तो चेतना तो एकदम अलग है. चेतना तो ये सब चीजों से, गुणों से भी परे है. We are not venturing into that. We will come to that when the sutra comes. But here we are talking about the gross form. So everything gross, Panchamahabhutas, Tanmatras, everything is composed of three gunas. You will find gunas present in everything. So that is the form of, that is the Sukshma, subtle form of it is. And then there are two more forms which are there. Anvaya is the fourth form. Manifestation. Now, when we talk about, when we talked about Bhutas, then we talk about the essential characteristics of Bhutas. So, Prithvi Tattva has got essential characteristics in the form of Gandha. Water has got taste. Fire has got form, Rupa. Air has got touch. Akasha has got Shabda. Same way, how do we know what is Sattva? How do we know what is Tamas? How do we know what is Rajas? World is made up of three gunas. Our bodies, our mind, everything is made up of three gunas. But how do we know where the Sattva is, where is the Rajas? Now, as yoga students, we all know that when we are sitting quietly, focusing on the breath, the Tamas and Rajas gets dominated and Sattva comes. We can create Sattva. We can increase Sattva. We, as a yoga student, we know how to create sattvic feelings. We have to just, while meditating, we have to create metta feeling. We have to create karuna in our mind, and sattva increases. We have to create maitri, and sattva increases. So at mental level, we know how to create sattva. At physical level also, when we are resting, we take bath, we do jalneti, we do kriya, sattva is created in the body, and we experience that sattva. So what is the essential characteristics of this sattva, rajas, tamas? That is the fourth form of bhuta, which is known as Anvaya. So what are these three characteristics in the form of Anvaya? Prakasha, Kriya, Sthiti. Wherever you will feel knowledge is there, illumination is there, there is a capacity to perceive. Wherever perception is there, sattva is there. Very simple. I'll simplify it for you. Whenever there is a perception, whenever you feel that you are knowing something, knowledge is there, the sattva is there. No, knowledge is not only in the mind. Knowledge is also in the object. There has to be sattva in this. Otherwise, how we will know this? We have sattva here, but there has to be sattva in this also. Then only we can know it. Otherwise, we cannot know it. The fact that we are able to perceive it is because there is sattva in this and because we have sattva here. Otherwise, no perception is possible. Right? Now, what is the true form of rajas? How do we know how do we detect presence of rajas? It's a very big thing, big statement on the part of the Sankhya to say everything is made up of sattva, rajas, tamas. Then we have to prove it. Not only prove it just for the others, we have to understand it ourselves. We have to verify it. And how do we verify? Wherever we feel the presence of energy, understand that there is rajas. Wherever there is energy, there is rajas. And where energy is not there, tell me. Where? Can you show any place where the energy is not there? In Japanese, we call it ki. In Chinese, we call it chi. In yoga, we call it prana. Or much more deeper term, shakti. शक्ति कहाँ नहीं है? शक्ति सभी चीजों में है, इसमें भी शक्ति है. और इसको हम जान कैसे पा रहे हैं? Because there is an activity here. If the activity was not there, we will not be able to perceive it. So that shows that rajas is there. That's why we are able to know it. Sattva is also there because knowledge is taking place. When I show it to you, you know I am looking at an object which appears to be a diary or a book, which has got blue form. It is not very thick. It contains certain white pages. All that you are knowing. How you are knowing it? Because sattva is there. But in that process of knowing, there is an energy which is being used. Isn't it? So that is where the rajas element comes in. And then tamas. Where is tamas? Tamas. We have got latent energy in our personality, in our body, in our mind, in our senses. This latent energy is used. Now that energy is latent. See, understand what I am saying. When I am talking about latency, latent energy, and kinetic energy, active energy. So how the difference? Now there is a certain amount of energy which is latent in all of us. How it will become active, how it will become kinetic, how that will be used. Now I am showing you another object. You saw that latent energy which was there, it became activated because of the rajas, and then you came to know that this has got a particular form. So tamas is responsible for all the forms which are there, holding on to those forms. So wherever you will find some definite form, understand that tamas is there. It is obstructing, and this obstruction is everywhere. What I am saying, if you are able to understand, then there is enough sattva and rajas in the mind. That is why you are able to understand. And suppose, if you are not able to understand what I am saying, there is enough tamas which is obstructing from acquiring this knowledge. Many times it happens. See, it's a simple principle. We read a book. Read a book. Book is very complicated. There are people who will understand it in one go because they have got less tamas maybe. But there are people who may have to read 10 times to be able to understand. So why they are not able to understand? Because tamas is obstructing. So the heavier the object, heavier, the more tamas. That's why in stone there is more tamas. In metal there is more tamas. But in flower there is more sattva. In light, when we look at the bulb, when we look at the tube light, when we look at the light, there's a lot of rajas along with sattva. Very less of tamas. That's why it is so bright. Wherever there's darkness, heaviness, wherever darkness, heaviness in terms of our vision, but even in terms of weight, something which is very heavy will have more tamas. Something which is lighter, it will have less tamas. Tamas will be there. Every object will have some kind of weight. That is one of the definition of weight. If the matter is there, if you throw the matter down, gravity will pull it down. So it has to fall down. That is how science will view it. And Sankhya would say, if it has got a particular form and it is holding on to that form and it has got certain heaviness, then it has got tamas. So this way, the fourth form of Mahabhutas, Pancha Mahabhutas, is that everything is made up of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And now we come to the essential fifth form. And what is that fifth form? It is Arthavatva. What is meant by Arthavatva? It is the objectivity. Translated in English, it is termed as objectivity. So one may many times we wonder, what is the purpose of this life? I am going through various kind of experiences. Why I am going through these kind of experiences? And the world is also so complex. The people are so complex. The objects are so complex. What is happening? Why this variety is there? So the first two words which I used earlier, Bhoga and Apavarga. This entire world, this entire Prakriti is like mother. And what is the role of mother? Mother will create right kind of situations for the child to grow and survive and become strong. That is what mother does. Same way, according to Sankhya, what Prakriti does, Prakriti provides us with experiences. The moment we open the eyes, there is light, there is sunlight, there is air for us to breathe. There are different sensations, various kinds of food is there to eat. Various objects are there to look at and deal with. All this is there by what? For what? They are there for Bhoga. So this universe is providing us experiences. This body is also for that. We are experiencing the world because body is there. Body is healthy. If the healthy body is there, then also we will not be able to experience. So eyes are able to see, ears are able to hear, tongue is able to taste, we are able to communicate, we are able to talk to each other. All this is what? For what? For learning. Bhoga. And Bhoga doesn't mean only the experience. Bhoga means there's a purpose behind it so that we can understand the truth of things. We can learn. We can grow. So according to Sankhya, this entire universe is formulated to provide experiences so that we can learn, we can grow, and ultimately we attain liberation from this. That is the Bhoga and Apavarga idea. There will be some earlier we have talked about it when we discussed Sutra 18 of chapter 2. Prakasha Kriya Sthiti Shilam. What is Prakasha Kriya Sthiti Shilam? Prakasha Kriya Sthiti is the Anvaya part of the three gunas, fourth form of the Mahabhutas. First form is Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal, Kshiti. Second form is Shabda, sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Sukshma form is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. And fourth form, Anvaya form is Prakasha Kriya Sthiti. So what is Prakasha Kriya Sthiti? Knowledge, activity and retention. And fifth form is why they are existing, why they are behaving the way they are behaving, so that we can experience them. This is what Sutra is trying to say. Very complicated, very, very difficult to understand Sutra, but then I try to make it interesting for you so you can understand what Sankhya is trying. Sankhya is not just a theory of religious kind or some kind of mythological thing. No, it's a scientific theory. It is telling us about the universe. It is telling us about the world and why we are there in the world and What is the role of these experiences we are going through? That is what Sankhya is trying to say. So Sankhya formulated this long back. It says every kind of experience is there for you to learn and grow. If you are not learning and growing, then the experience will go on repeating. If we are not learning, we will get stuck up and we'll remain where we are. If we grow up, if we grow and we evolve, there'll be newer kind of experiences. There'll be better and better experiences. But if we get some people are, stationary where they are. They don't want to grow. Nature is there. So nature, what nature will do? Nature will prod. How nature prods? When we go through pain, it is the prodding of nature. Understand that. जब कभी हमारे जीवन में हमको दुख मिलता है, we experience pain, understand that nature is wanting us to learn something and we are not learning. If we are not learning, the pain will persist. The pain will keep coming. What is the indication that the learning has taken place or we have grown? That pain will not be there. There will be a different kind of pain, maybe. That is Sankhya position. This is the yoga position. That's why Dr. Jaydev used to say, learn, grow, evolve. Be committed to self-growth. Be committed to understanding. Be committed to spiritual development. What is spiritual development? It is learning. हम लोग जो बोलते हैं कि अध्यात्म, हम साधुओं की बात सुनते हैं, सन्यासियों की बात सुनते हैं. We are listening to discourses of the religious kind, the religious scriptures. All those discourses are for what purpose? So that we can learn, we can evolve spiritually to be able to understand things. So this Prakriti is not really, some people say, Arey, this life is punishment. Life is not punishment. It is an opportunity for us to grow. If we grow and evolve, we'll find the nature of pain changes, the nature of experiences changes. But if we don't learn, then we'll get stuck up. Then like Dr. Jaydev used to say, थप्पड़ मार के nature का तमाचा लगेगा. Nature will go on beating you unless you relent. Relent to do what? Relent to learn. So we have to relent. We have to become sensitive. We have to learn from experiences. एक बार किसी के साथ में बात करने से कुछ झगड़ा हो जाता है, तो उसमें से सीखना चाहिए. अगली बार वो नहीं होना चाहिए, लेकिन हम लोग नहीं सीखते हैं. अगली बार वैसे के वैसे वो प्रॉब्लम आता है. एक बार कुछ गलत खा लिया, पेट खराब हुआ, दुख हुआ, उसमें से सीखना चाहिए. हम लोग नहीं सीखते हैं, तो हमको बार बार वो दुख आते रहते हैं. दुख तब तक आएंगे तब तक जब तक सीखेंगे नहीं. This very important sutra it is. It is giving a message that we have to learn, we have to grow, we have to evolve. थोड़ा इंटेंस हो गया ये आज, और टाइम भी पूरा 1 घंटा चले गया, क्योंकि डिटेल्स इतने थे कि मैं इसको ब्रीफ करते करते भी बहुत ब्रीफ नहीं कर पाया इसको. ठीक है. If there are questions.
Sir, can I ask one question?
Yes. Please.
Sir, you mentioned in between that if you want to increase sattva in meditation, you can do parikarmas. You were saying ki
Yeah.
increase karuna. Can you
Yeah.
please throw a little more light on that?
No, any kind of parikarmas, or for that matter, if the intention is to increase sattva, there are several techniques: parikarmas, tapa, swadhyaya, ishwar pranidhan, और अष्टांग योग, आसन, प्राणायाम. जब कभी हमको सत्व बढ़ाना है, सत्व बढ़ाना है मतलब सत्व की एसेंशियल क्वालिटी क्या है? नॉलेज, नोइंग. अपनी नॉलेज विल बिकम शार्प, आवर परसेप्शन विल बिकम शार्प, एंड दिस परसेप्शन बिकम शार्प व्हेन देयर इज अ पीस ऑफ माइंड, व्हेन देयर इज नो डिस्टर्बेंस. So that means when sattva is increasing, the disturbance is being eliminated. The restricting factors are being eliminated so that we can perceive sharply. तो कई बार माइंड बहुत डिस्टर्ब रहता है. साइंस भी यही बोलता है, साइकोलॉजी भी अभी यही बोलता है कि आपको जब भी गुस्सा आ रहा हो, जब भी आप बहुत डिस्टर्ब हो, तो वॉक पे चले जाओ, बाकी के झाड़ों को देखो, नेचर में टाइम स्पेंड करो, गार्डन में जाओ, जंगल में चले जाओ. In Japan, they have got this very beautiful concept. They go into forest and they take bath in the forest. That is the forest bath, nature bath. So उससे सत्व बढ़ता है. या म्यूजिक सुन लो. Several techniques could be there. आप आसन कर लो, शरीर के तरफ ध्यान देके 3-4 एक्टिविटी किया तो मन, शरीर में भी सत्व आ जाएगा, मन में भी सत्व आ जाएगा. मेंटल स्टेट विल कंप्लीटली चेंज. आप प्राणायाम कर लो, थोड़ा सा ध्यान देके 3-4 ब्रेथ ध्यान के, मन की स्थिति बदल जाएगी. मन जो तामसिक हो गया है, मन जो राजसिक हो गया है, बहुत चिंता में है, बहुत एजिटेटेड है, वो मन सात्विक हो जाएगा जैसे ही आप सांसों पे ध्यान केंद्रित करना चालू करो. देखिए कैसे कैसे कनेक्शंस हैं. जब हम गुणों की बात करते हैं, जब हम योगासनों की बात करते हैं, ध्यान की बात करते हैं, प्राणायाम की बात करते हैं, ये सभी कनेक्टेड हैं. यही योग की यही ब्यूटी है कि योग हमको इस लायक बनाता है कि हम इन चीजों का इस्तेमाल करके अपनी उन्नति कर सके.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Namaste, sir.
नमस्ते.
Sir, I just want to quickly understand the technical points. So, when you say Sthula, these are the Pancha Mahabhuta in the gross form, right?
Yeah,
And then
right.
this word Swarupa over here in the Sutra are the
Tanmatras.
Tanmatras.
Right.
The Sukshma are the 3 gunas.
Right.
And Anvaya are the qualities of the gunas, right?
Yes. Prakasha,
Okay.
Kriya, Sthiti.
Okay, because the gunas are given in 2 sections. First,
In Sukshma,
Anvaya just as gunas, and then they further simplify the gunas by putting Anvaya.
no. Sukshma as gunas. Sukshma form is gunas. Anvaya is the qualities. That is, in Vyas Bhashya, you will find the word, Kshati, Kshati, or the Kriya and Sthiti. These 3 words are used in Vyas Bhashya, but they are nothing but Prakasha, Kriya, Sthiti. So Kshati is nothing but Kriya, Prakasha, illumination.
Illumination.
So Anvaya is Prakasha, Kriya, Sthiti. Sukshma is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Anvaya is Prakasha, Kriya, Sthiti. And the last, that is objectivity, Arthavatva, is Bhoga and Apavarga.
Yeah, Bhoga and Apavarga. Yeah, so my question here, my reflection is that why they separated Anvaya, why they separated Anvaya and, Sukshma and Anvaya, they could have put them together, right?
So when we look at the Bhutas have got the quality of essential quality of smell, Gandha, but we are not able to distinguish it. If you want to really go deep into it, what is the characteristic? How do we know it is Prithvi Tattva? How do we know it is Prithvi Tattva? Then when we get smell, it is Prithvi Tattva. So how do we sometimes, it is a valid question you are asking. Sometimes our mental states are such, we are not able to understand whether it is sattvic or whether it is tamasic. So how do we know that our mental state is sattvic or tamasic? There has to be certain characteristics, no? So what is that characteristics? That characteristic, the lightness, the illumination, the prakash. Wherever there is prakasha, there is sattva. This way we understand that even the mental state, it is sattvic or tamasic or rajasic. How do we, when mind is very agitated, mind is not able to think, we have got too many thoughts in our mind, or our mind is not able to focus, then mind is disturbed. We know that it is rajas. So how do we know, distinguish rajas, tamas, sattva? Through the Anvaya. If Anvaya is not there, we will not be able to distinguish.
So Anvaya are the distinctive characteristics.
Distinctive features of gunas is Anvaya.
Is Anvaya. So it is very meditative. First, just touch on the gunas and then go deeper. By meditating on the Anvaya.
Yeah.
So another reflection is that, because right now we are discussing that the Pancha Mahabhutas have these Anvaya.
Our body mind is also Pancha Mahabhutas.
So this is very reflective about buddhi. That buddhi carries the
buddhi
3
has
gunas.
Sattva, Rajas, Tamas.
Because buddhi is, because we don't have defining characteristics of buddhi as earth or the Pancha Mahabhutas that we just discussed.
No. Buddhi has been given a characteristics in Sankhya. The term
four
which is
bhavas.
no. The asmita matra, pure essence, is the characteristics of buddhi, mere existence. When there is the awareness in the form that I exist, that is the pure form of buddhi. So characteristics are there. Very, very, you see, Sankhya is so scientific that everything has been categorized very properly, and it is possible to experience that.
So the sutra for buddhi, which has the gunas within it, the sutra will come later.
It has come already.
Okay.
Chapter 2. Prakasha kriya sthiti shilam.
Right.
Prakasha kriya sthiti shilam bhutendriyatmakam. Bhutendriya. Bhutas and indriya. प्रकाश क्रिया स्थिति जो है भूतेंद्रिय और इंद्रियात्मक है. तो बुद्धि में भी 3 गुण है, प्रकाश क्रिया स्थिति है और इंद्रियों में भी है. तो इंद्रियां क्या है? बुद्धि इंद्रिय है, मनस इंद्रिय, अहंकार इंद्रिय है. हमारी जो 5 ज्ञान इंद्रिय, कर्म इंद्रिय, इंद्रिय है. So that has come in Sutra 18 of chapter 2. If you read that, if you read the comments, Vyas Bhashya and commentary by Swami Hariyananda Aranya, things will become very clear and crystal clear.
Okay, thank you, sir. 2.18, right?
2.18.
Yes. And one last confirmation from you. When you say that Akasha has the capacity to give us sound, to give us the experience of sound, can we say Akasha is the carrier of sound? It becomes the carrier, right?
It becomes carrier, yes.
We can use that word?
Yeah, we can, yeah. If you have to translate it in English, then we can use that word. Because if the carrier is not there, the things will not be transported.
Right.
If the carrier is there, then only the object can be transported, and sound is transported. So the space is carrying the sound. The space which is here in which I am sitting, that space is carrying the sound to the computer. Computer is transmitting into certain signals. And then again at your end, it is produced in the form of sound because there is a space. So this space is carrying the sound.
Right. So all these tanmatras are the carriers.
Carriers, yes.
Not the tanmatras.
In relation to sound, what you said is correct.
The Panchamahabhutas are the carriers of tanmatras.
Prithvi is the carrier of Gandha Tanmatras.
Yes. Actually, I'm searching for that chart. There is a chart which, it gives the ascending and the descending forms of the various tanmatras of each Panchamahabhutas.
Yeah, it's known as Panchikaran.
Panchikaran, yes, it is there in Vedanta.
Maybe you Google it.
Yes.
Panchikaran of Bhutas, you will come to know.
Yes, that I have, the Panchikarans.
Or Bhutas and Tanmatras according to Sankhya, maybe some material. I may also have somewhere.
Yes, the Panchikaran, yes.
Panchikaran.
Thank you. I was searching for that word. Thank you so much. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for answering all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Wonderful session today.